If you guys want one-on-one training, online training, or nutritional coaching, please head on over to my website, jpfitnesspro.com. Just go to the services tab and select which one you would like. You can also subscribe to my newsletter and contact me through my website as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks.
What is up, you guys? JP here, coming at you with the final workout split video. Unless I'm completely missing one, which I don't think I am. I did bro splits. I just recorded the push-pull legs. I've done total body, and then here's upper lower. First, to start off with, the one fact about me, like I'm trying to do every video, is I've already talked about that I like video games, but my favorite fighting game is Mortal Kombat. I may or may not have mentioned that. I was really hyped when I came home one day, and I don't know, I completely forgot about the Video Game Awards. I couldn't even remember that being a thing. I guess I remember it being a thing. It's not super, like, it wasn't everywhere, because if it was, I would have seen it. I'm always on social media. But apparently Ed Boon kind of tricked everyone and came out and presented the best sports racing game, and then it ended up being a trailer for the new Mortal Kombat. And the best part is it's coming out in April, so I'm 100% getting that game. If you guys like playing Mortal Kombat, or you're a big fan of that, hit me up. Maybe we can play sometime Mortal Kombat X before, or the new one when it comes out. I'm 100% down to do that. Today's video is going to be the second video for today. If you could not tell, I'm wearing the same thing. Is the upper lower split video. If you don't know what an upper lower split is, it's where one day you do all upper body, so all upper body push, all upper body pull. It's like a push pull legs, except you just combine the push and pull into one day. Now, that doesn't mean you do double workouts. You might have to do less, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But it's all upper body on one day and then all lower body on another day. So it's kind of similar to push-pull legs. You're just combining all upper body. It would look like this. For your upper day, you do your pull, you do your lats and your upper back. Oh, I forgot to write biceps here, but you'd also do biceps. And then you do your push, you do chest, shoulders, triceps. And then the next day you do lower body, which would be glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves. One thing to note is I never really said anything about this. Sorry about my shitty ass writing. I just write like garbage, so sorry if you can't read it. I'm telling you what I'm writing. So let's get on to the pros. The pros of an upper lower split is it's really good at building and keeping technique. And the main reason why that is because the 3 times frequency exposure to that muscle, or to that exercise specifically. For example, in the last push-pull leg split video, I said that, or push-pull legs, yeah, split, I said that you can't get that 3 times a week frequency. So if you wanted to run a hypertrophy power strength setup, you couldn't do that in a push-pull legs, but you can do that in an upper lower split. You could also do that in a total body, but again, you wouldn't have so many compounds as a push-pull legs. So that it's good at building and keeping technique. And if I didn't write that in the total body video, total body also falls under that. Again, I was just trying to highlight the main pros, but I really like this for this one, because if you have an upper body day and you have a bad bench press, or bench press is something that's just behind, you can set it up so that you're doing bench press 3 times a week. One's a heavy day, one's a hypertrophy day where you accumulate volume, and then you have another day where you're focused on just maybe slightly heavy, not as heavy as your heavy day, your strength day, and you focus on doubles and singles. So you just really hone in on that technique. You want absolutely picture perfect reps. So, and again, it's also just good for keeping that technique up. I just really think, again, high exposure to a specific exercises is just going to help you get better at them. If you do something once a week versus 3 times a week, you're going to see a clear difference. I kind of use the idea of shooting a bow and arrow. If you shoot a bow and arrow, if you shoot it once a week, you're not going to get as good as fast as someone who shoots a bow and arrow 3 times a week. And regards, like, kind of ignoring the fatigue aspect and the recovery aspect of training for a little bit, I know that's always going to be a factor, but you have to think of strength as a skill. You know, you have to think of it like a bow and arrow. Think of your setup, your squat, your technique as just like a bow and arrow. You want it to be very specific. So that's a really good pro for the upper lower split. And I would argue that it probably is better than total body. It's just because that there's not so many compounds in one day, and it's not as hard. You get to focus on just some compounds, not all compounds for total body. And then the next pro is that it's just like with the push-pull leg split. You're able to easily accumulate weekly total volume. So you have really no problem. And I would argue that's even easier than a push-pull leg split, because It's maybe similar if you're doing an upper lower or upper lower 4 times a week. But if you're doing an upper lower 3 times a week for upper, 3 times a week for lower for a total of 6 workouts, it's just super easy to keep up volume. It just really is. Especially for legs, because you're doing them 3 times, it's just so easy. And for people who have trouble building big wheels, that's a perfect help with that right there with this split. So yes, it's just easy to get weekly volume in, and we know that workout volume dictates the magnitude of adaptation. So if you want to make those gains, you need to hit the exercise a minimum 2 times a week or that muscle group, and 3 times a week is probably even a little bit better. Even though science has shown that if volumes equated, they're essentially the same, but I'd argue that you probably have higher quality of sets if you're splitting them up more often. Okay, and then the last pro that I could come up with is, it's just, and I'm not trying to look for these things, they just come to me. I'm not trying to say, well, what's good about it? If I have to dig that hard for it, it's probably something I'm just making up. But so I don't mean like, oh, that I could come up with. I just mean that it's the last one, is that it's optimal for high level bodybuilding and powerlifting. Now you may say, you said the last split was optimal for high level bodybuilding and powerlifting. Yes, I can structure most of these splits except bro splits as optimal. I can, and by optimal I mean like, again, 2 times a week frequency for each muscle group, 10 plus sets a week for each muscle group. Those are the 2 main things that I'm looking at in regards to optimal. And then there's all the other little factors, obviously, like intensity, RPE, you know, speed of repetitions, things like that. But for just when I'm looking at like a split and specifically the kind of macro level things, is that if I had to pick one for a high level bodybuilder or a high level powerlifter, I think for bodybuilders, I'd probably say that this is really close to a push-pull leg split. You may argue that, yeah, I guess, but I could still make this optimal for a bodybuilder. So it's like upper lower, push-pull legs, maybe. And then for powerlifter, definitely optimal, 100%. I would say that this is the best split for a powerlifter. And then maybe even if I had to pick like a power building style, push-pull legs would be, this and push-pull legs would probably be tied. So again, if you're like someone who's a powerlifter, I really recommend an upper lower split, even if you're a beginner or not. And then the same thing for a bodybuilder, you could use an upper lower split, especially if you like focusing on strength as like a secondary. This would be a really good one too, to do both. Like I said, for a power builder. Now let's go on to cons. And as you can tell, there's not really that many cons. I really like this split. This is the one I did before push-pull legs, before I switched to it. The first con is that the upper body workouts can kind of drag on because you have to do all upper body push and upper body pull. Again, you're gonna have to warm up at least 2 times. If you're not doing 2 warm-ups in your upper body days, I'd argue that you're increasing your risk of injury 100%. I've seen it myself, it's happened to myself. You could say, well, you don't have to, fine, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if I were to make an intelligent workout program, I wouldn't do a new muscle group, max weight or whatever weight I'm working on, my working weight, with no warm-up. So when you're going from an upper body push or pull, whatever was the starting one, you got to do your general warm-up, your mobility warm-ups, what I like doing in my mobility routine, and then you have to do your rehearsal sets for that exercise, lighter sets. And then when I go to the next one, either push or pull, whichever one I didn't do first, I have to do a mobility or rehearsal sets. I don't need to redo my mobility routine, but I have to do rehearsal sets. So again, that's kind of makes the workouts drag on, and because you're having to cover just more muscle groups than on like a push-pull leg split, it's just going to be longer. Now again, I know a lot of you would say, well, I could structure an upper workout to not be that long, but would I consider that optimal? Would I think that that's enough? In a lot of cases, no. Sometimes for advanced athletes, you just have to do more, which if you compare it to a push-pull leg split, upper workouts are just going to be longer. Now, but the reason why is because there's always a trade-off. The trade-off is that with push-pull leg split, you're only doing 2 times a week frequency, which I would argue that if you're trying to hone technique, that 3 times a week frequency is better in most circumstances and in other factors too. So there's always a trade-off. We get the 3 times a week frequency, but it's going to lead to longer upper workouts. It just is going to. I've done it myself. I've heard dozens of people say it. And then you got to just think you're just hitting more muscle groups. It's pretty common sense. And the next con, and I put an arrow because depending on how you look at it, this could be a pro. I didn't know where to put this, is that you have to work out a minimum of 4 times a week. If you're not, maybe you could get away with 3 times a week, but 4 times a week I would say is the minimum, because if you're not, then you're not. You're either, if let's just say you're working out 3 times a week, you're either upper or lower body that you're hitting only once a week, which again, we all know that that's not optimal. You need that 2 times a week per muscle group, 10 plus sets a week per muscle group. So, Now, if you're someone who was looking at a push-pull leg split and said, I don't want to work out 6 times a week, you know, I'm okay with 4 though, then this may be a pro to you. Now, if you're someone who's like, no, I don't got time, I only got max 3, preferably 2, then that's where a total body would be looking at, you'd be looking at the best. Because total body, again, I even said as a pro, is the only workout split that you can work out twice a week and have those tenets, the 2 times muscle group a week frequency, and then the 10 plus sets a week for a muscle group. You can't get both of those in 2 days on any other split. You just can't do it. So again, depending on how much you work out, the 4 times a week minimum to hit those tenets is kind of like it could be a pro or con depending on what split you're looking like. If you guys have any questions, comments about this upper lower split, again, I think it's a really good split, arguably the best split depending on how you look at it. Very little cons. I think it's real good. Again, questions, comments about this split, leave them down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.